Hello, hello, folks. We're going to get the recording started. Hello, folks. Okay, so I am so excited to share with you the number one mistake I see people making when it comes to their budgets. So what I like to call a financial plan. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Eleanor Prisco, and I work as a money and mindset coach for women. And I want to share with you in this live and video today of what is the number one mistake people make when it comes to creating a budget. This is the pitfall I see every single person do. I did it myself, and it was time and time again that I see this happening for my clients, folks in my community, in my group programs, in my one-on-one containers, whatever it might be, right? But this number one mistake is what's going to lead to you kind of always falling off the wagon when it comes to budgeting, thinking that budgeting never works for you. In general, I don't like to use the word budgeting, I think, and budget in general, because it's something that comes with a lot of sticky emotions. And I think that a more sustainable term is a financial plan. And it's what I'm going to now refer to a budget on from this point on in the video, because that is a huge aspect of the feminine finance methodology, what I founded and teach. Okay, so what is this number one mistake I see? The number one mistake I see is people do not take into consideration their desires. Okay, so what am I talking about here when I say they don't take into consideration their desires? I'm talking about the fact that if you love to travel, right? If you love to dine out, if you love grabbing a coffee out, if you love making food at home and shopping organic, if you really like makeup or getting your nails done and you refresh your cosmetics frequently, right? When people decide to lean into budgeting, what happens immediately is they start to cut, right? It is always, oh, what do I need to deprive myself? How can I deprive myself? What can I cut? What can I eliminate to decrease my spending? Because that is the only option I have, right? Is that I'm spending outside of my means and I need to cut down what I am spending on. Now, yes, this is an aspect of shifting how you engage with your money. However, when it comes to the feminine finance methodology, we do it a bit differently. We take a more holistic approach, right? We don't immediately start slashing amounts that we're supposed to be spending and giving these arbitrary rules based on some average that some person is toting who has a bunch of money, right? And is saying oh, well, this is what you should be spending on groceries. It's is that person living in your city? Does that person have as many children as you or people in your household? Does that person value shopping organic? Does that person want to shop locally? There are important things that you need to take into consideration that are impacting how you spend money, right? And this goes not only for your personal finances, but your business finances too. Because when I work with women that own their own businesses, this also comes up, right? We need to take into consideration what they value, right? Do they value, paying their team a higher rate than maybe what society has deemed a minimum wage, right? Because when you're thinking about it, it's oh, is anyone actually able to live off of the minimum wage? Is this what I want to perpetuate? It's oh, could I maybe get less hours, but pay a little bit more so that this person is experiencing financial stability and consistency for their region, right? So I think that this is super important to take into consideration when it comes to creating your financial plan. The number one thing you want to do is not to immediately go slashing amounts and starting to judge yourself and shame yourself for what you're spending money where. It's instead to take the time to do a month or maybe two of just collecting data and figuring out how much you're spending in different areas. Now, you can do this historically and go ahead and pull your bank statements for the past couple months, the past 2 or 3 months, and see kind of where your average has been at in those categories, and then assess, oh, what has felt out of alignment? Because most of the time when we're not paying attention to our spending, there is spending that's happening that's out of alignment, right? And what I mean by out of alignment spending is that it doesn't feel good, right? Like at that time, we potentially were spending to make ourselves feel a different feeling than what we were experiencing at the moment, right? This can be seen with like emotional shopping, right? Shopping therapy. This can be seen with, oh, like, I wasn't feeling good, right? And so like, then I went out to eat or I ordered delivery, right? Like being an emotional eater, right? I'm not trying to bring shame onto like those aspects of like shopping or eating to feel better, right? These are all things that I've done myself. And at the same time, it is important to reflect on like, oh, like what exactly is at play here? And like, did that all feel good? And like, was I happy about it in the end? Right? Because there's so many things that could be sitting in our closet that we never have worn, that the tags are still on. And we're just like, we bought them because we were trying to grasp for control in the moment when it came to our finances, right? Or we potentially have implemented an extremely restrictive financial plan, most likely a budget in that sense, right? We've implemented an extremely restrictive budget. And what's happened is we've fallen off the wagon because we've been restricting ourselves and denying ourselves again and again and again and again. And then we boomerang kind of like, or we slingshot to the other side of being like, okay, well, like I finally deserve this. Like I've been doing so good. And then like, we kind of like spend a ton and like, it's way more than it has been other months when we've maybe just been overspending by a little bit rather than a lot. So this is a very, very important aspect to consider when you're creating your financial plan, both in your business and your personal life, right? It's really important to consider what are your desires, what are your values, and how do you want your money, like financial plan to reflect that, right? It could be also in your business, right? Of, what plans you're subscribed to, like, are you actually utilizing them in full? Because again, right, what I'm inviting you into, instead of looking at the numbers and just slashing arbitrarily, it's actually taking the time to reflect on like, oh, what are the aspects of this plan I've signed up for in my business? Am I utilizing all of the features? Like, have I, I've hired team and like, maybe you are on a retainer amount and it's like, are you utilizing all the hours of that team member? Like, are you, leaving hours unspent or uncovered? Like, do you need to like relinquish some control in some projects a little bit more? Do you need to lean into getting organized? Do you need to pull back and say like, oh, I'd like fewer hours and like, let's test that out and like fully be able to utilize those hours and then move into the next stage when we're ready and there, right? The same is true for your personal finances, right? Business and personal finances go hand in hand as an entrepreneur because it's so important, right? To actually be able to manage your business finances, because then the money that flows to your personal life is directly from your business. And so it's really important for you to have both sides of the house managed. And so when it comes to considering your desires, it's really taking into account, okay, like what are aspects of your life? Like, are you going to get a coffee every day? And if that, when you reflect on that, if that is making you feel bad, right? It's like, okay, well, what would it look like if I made coffee at home 2 or 3 times per week versus going out every day, right? Like, would that shift your financial aspect, but also be an attainable intention for you, right? Would that actually be a proper shift? And so taking into consideration your desires is a cornerstone of what makes the feminine finance methodology different than a lot of the budgeting and financial management courses out there, right? The feminine financial methodology is one that I founded and teach. It's what I teach in my group programs with my one-on-ones. Like, no matter what, this is where you're going to learn it. And so it's super important because it's what promotes creating sustainable financial plans, right? And so instead of just like cutting, we're taking into consideration like, oh, this is the sustainable life that I want to be living. And now how do I make sure that my income can match that, those financial intentions and desires of what my financial picture will look like, right? So it's super important to take these things into consideration and really think about, okay, what are my desires? How is that reflected in what I'm spending when it comes to my business, when it comes to my personal finances, when it comes to my household spending, and really considering, what are the desires that I have, and like making sure that they actually go into your financial planner rather than just saying, oh, this is a totally fine thing to be in my financial plan. And it's not a problem, like it's not a problem for you to drink coffee out. It's not a problem for you to go and dine out. It's not a problem for you to decide that you want to travel, right? These are not negative things. They're things that society has made us feel negative about because it's been said like, oh, well, these are the reasons why you can't achieve your financial desires and dreams. But that's not really it, right? When you really look at it, it's like the decrease in like the lack of growth of minimum wage being a livable wage over history, the growth of the cost of a home, the cost of education, like all of these things have been factors that have impacted everything as a whole, but they're not necessarily being talked about. So I really want to encourage you, if you are taking a first go at making a financial plan, right? AKA a budget, not what I like to refer to because there's so much like emotional connection with that. But like, if you are taking a stab at your first budget, what I recommend is take into consideration your desires, take into consideration your values, take into consideration what really is important to you, and actually incorporate them into your financial plan. This will allow for sustainability. This will allow for you to actually succeed at the financial desires and goals that you have, right? And it'll give you spaciousness to assess when spending is happening out of alignment and a grasp for control versus, you spending in a way that feels really good in alignment and like brings you joy and pleasure and ease, right? And so if you want to learn more about these topics, you're going to definitely want to sign up for my 4-day workshop that's coming up at the end of July. It is going to be an amazing 4-day workshop. I'm super, super excited about it. And it is called Money Shift. We're going to be going over all of these concepts when it comes to personal finances and business and how you can implement the feminine finance methodology, what I founded and teach, what has helped me grow my business to over, 350K with organic social media efforts. This is not with advertisements. This has been from, 4 years of struggling and not figuring it out. And then like actually having it click in by following these financial principles that I'm going to be teaching. And on top of that, you're going to be learning how I then was able to get, pay off over 50K in debt and, actually grow my business to being able to financially support me, pay myself consistently, be able to create the life that I've always wanted of traveling, of being able to, go out to eat and like have the quality of life that I've always wanted. And is there more that I want? Of course. And it allows for me to have a successful business right now that's fully supporting me. I am not taking on debt. I am paying off the debt from the past. I am, doing this all through organic marketing and being able to grow my business to the next levels. So if you want to learn how to implement these strategies, you're going to want to sign up for my 4-day workshop. Just follow the links in my bio or below. And with that, I will see you for the next week's money chat at the same time. If you like this content, leave me a comment, give me a follow, go ahead and subscribe. It's going to help the algorithm. It's going to allow you to get notified whenever a new live comes up. And I'll always be sharing these amazing feminine financial tips and, mindset shifts. So with that, I'll see you later. Bye.